So we're going to do things a little different today and tonight. So we're going to start off with, I asked you to pick up this packet. If you didn't do so already, it's up here. So it's more review. We're ready for chapter 3 review. I also know you guys are getting a little burned out. So I am offering this as extra credit. So you can have an extra credit homework if you do igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks, and show it to me by Tuesday. I haven't done it yet. I will post these answers probably by tonight if I can figure out teams. It's giving me a hard time at the moment. Wow, Derek, you put that together real quick. Yeah, so guys, I'm asking you to get it done. So extra credit for doing review. That's all I'm asking. So yeah, you could get extra credit by going and copying the answers. But you have a Regents exam, 9 days from now? And what I would do if I was you, or since my daughter's in the same boat as you guys, here's what I would tell her to do. Same thing I told you to do on the last ones. Do it on your own first. Look up answers if you need to. Pay attention to the questions you have to look up, because that's the stuff that you're a little unsure of. Then go check your work on Teams. That's what I would do. But for the moment, I want everybody to turn to this page, which I guess would technically be page 5. It's the last sheet of paper, the front of it. I want you to do that right now, because this is profiles. Do you guys remember doing profiles?
I can't read.
You can't read that. You can read that. It is a little blurry. So it's not your eyes. It is a little blurry. So it's not the smoke affecting us that much. It's drawing profiles. If you guys don't remember what a profile is, that's the side view of a hill or a mountain. Or on the next one on the back, it's actually the side view of Lake Ontario. So in that case, it's going to be a hole, because a lake is nothing more than a hole really in the ground. So if you remember doing them, that's where you take scrap paper. I'm going to actually give you a grade report you can use as your scrap paper, because it doesn't need to be this scrap paper. It's where you take the scrap paper and you put it along the line you're going to draw. You mark off the lines where it touches, you label them, and you bring it down here, and then you put the dots on the graph paper. If you need more help than that, I'll get to it in a moment, but for now, that's what we're doing. I have a couple things that I noticed that are issues. On the real Regents, this line CB would have lined up perfectly with the size down here. But because I just copied and pasted this off of an old Regents, it doesn't line up. So what I'm saying is location C will not be over there. Start at B right here, but C will not make it to the edge. On the real Regents, it would line up perfect, because they take the time to make sure that it lines up perfect. Didn't even occur to me when I did it. There are some questions here. So there's question 59, 60, 61, and 62. Answer those right now. Then move on to the back and try it again here. And the same deal here. When you go from A to B, it doesn't reach all the way over to B. In the meantime, I'm going to be checking chapter 2's review. That one was not extra credit. It's right here. Chapter 2, which was due today, was not extra credit, so I'm going to check that one. I'm also going to give you your grade reports. You guys have seen these before. If you're on Power School, this is not news to you. So I think I've updated everybody's grades. What I'm feeling kind of generous. So what I'm going to do is anybody who has zeros from the past quarter, so just quarter 4, if you have some zeros in there, if you show me those completed assignments by Tuesday, the last day of school, I'll give you, instead of 100 on them, since they were due, some of them almost 3 months ago, instead of 100, I'll give you an 85 if you show me them done, instead of the 0 you currently have. If you were absent, and so some of you have them done right now. If you can bring up the work right this moment for what you owe me, I'll give you full credit on it, because that means it's done and you either forgot to show me or you showed me and I forgot to mark it down. That's always a possibility. So do what the paper you have in front of you. Then when you get this, check on all your zeros. There's quite a few zeros. So check your zeros, see if you need to turn in any work. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? So I'm actually going to pause this for now. So again, everybody is working on page 5, which is this assignment right now until you get your grade report, then you can look that over. Okay, so just real quick, if you forgot how to do these profiles or some of the details, there is almost always one of these on the Regents. So the first thing to do is always double check where they want you to do the profile from. So in this one, they did want you to go from B to C. So make sure you do that. The other thing, the first step that when I taught you to do this would be to label all the lines. So right here, 550 is labeled. This next line up, you do have to figure out what that one is. So they did label 500 and 550. So I had to do trial and error to figure it out. It didn't take me much. So 500, 510, 20, 30, 40, 550. They're going up by tens. So B is at 550. This next line over, this is 540. The next one we hit is 530. And then we follow that. This next line over is 530 again. So I do label it and then 540 back up to 550. That's step 1, if you remember doing that. Now, step 2 is taking your scrap paper and marking every time those lines touch the scrap paper. But not just marking them, you also have to label them. So you just need to squeeze in, and you're the only one who has to read the labels. So you notice I stopped with the 500, just labeled 30, 40, 50, just keeping in my head that it's going to be 530. Once you have those little marks labeled, you bring them down to the bottom of the graph paper. Since they gave me B, I'm going to line up that B with the mark or with the paper. I'm going to use pen so you can see what I'm doing. So we go 550. We follow that straight up to the 550 mark. 540, straight up. I almost passed, actually did pass it. 530, 530, 540, 550. Shoot, I realize now that I forgot one. Hopefully you didn't make that same mistake. I forgot over here to C, which is 550 again. Make sure I put this right where it belongs. 550. Then you had to connect the dots. The first 3, super easy. What happens when you get to the spot where there's 2 of the same? Remember, there's no hills or valleys that go straight across. You have to decide, is this going to be a hill or a valley? Yeah, so you could remember that any river, like think of Cattaraugus Creek over by Klesboys. Obviously, it goes down to get to the river. But if you're not sure if it's going up or down, or go look at that area. So we're talking about the area right here between 550 and 550. That whole orange spot is in between my 530 line and in between the 520 line. So it's telling you that it's a little less than 530. So that's, again, going to be a valley. Then you connect them up, and again, we're to the 2 550s. So we're talking about between here and here. So if I was to put an X here, that's between the 550 line and the 560 line. So in that case, these ones curve up. So a couple things to note with your curves. They do have to definitely go underneath the line, but do not let them touch down to the 520 line, and same here. Up and over the 550, but not touching the 560. So this should be what your map or your graph would look like. I'm not going to take your time up to do the next one, but this one should look like this. So again, this one's just a giant hole that is now filled with water called Lake Ontario. One thing that you should notice is the side over here closer to A is steeper than the side at B. If you had that reversed, it's because you went from B to A, and unfortunately, I would have to mark it wrong. When I grade these on the Real Regents, they give me a clear copy of the answer key, and I put it over your test. And what they do is they give you a little bit of wiggle room, kind of like this scenario here. They say as long as their dot is within the circle. So you can see they give you a little bit of wiggle room, but not very much. Why I'm telling you that is you have to make sure that when you're using your scrap paper, you go, oops, wrong one, must be, I don't have that one, scrap paper, but you have to make sure you go straight up from your mark on the scrap paper. I make sure I do a good job by drawing the lines. You don't have to draw the lines, but you do have to be as accurate as possible. So that's the Regents. Any questions on profiles?
No.
Nah, good. All right, so like I said, the rest of this packet is extra credit if you wish to do it. I do want to just make sure, since you had to do the homework assignment last night, that you have the correct answers. I'll go pretty quick unless you have any questions. So 2 factors determine the coordinate system, that's latitude and longitude. Number 2, sun's highest in the sky. You could have wrote just noon. I wrote solar noon. If you wrote 12, make sure you know it's 12 p.m. is noon. The Earth rotates 15 degrees per hour. 360 divided by 24 is 15 degrees per hour. There are 24 time zones, and by the way, they're 15 degrees apart. Same line of longitude means you have the same time. If you go to the west, you're going earlier in the day. Number 7, the star that uses a reference point in North America, you could have wrote North Star or Polaris. Where is the North Star located? I would have accepted 2 different answers. One is directly above the North Pole, or you could say it's equal to your latitude, because North Star is equal to your latitude. Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn were not randomly placed there. They are the highest latitude that get direct rays of the sun at one point during the year. And Arctic Circle and Antarctic Circle, again, not just random. That is where at least one time per year, the sun does not go above the horizon, which means it's dark there for 24 hours. Number 11, you'll see lines of latitude and longitude on New York State on page 3. The equator is 0 degrees latitude and the prime meridian 0 degrees longitude. Highest latitude is 90 north and 90 south, and highest longitude is 180. Altitude of Polaris equals your latitude. With these pictures, we know that this is a picture of latitude. I know that because the lines are going flat across the earth, plus they are parallel to each other. Lines of latitude are parallel. Longitude, they meet at the poles. So that's why you can see here at the polar view that they're touching. This one right here, a bunch of people asked me about it. A bunch of people left it blank. You do need to know where Polaris is in the sky. It is equal to your latitude, but it is the last star in the handle of the Little Dipper. And these 2 stars on the Big Dipper, the end of the bucket part, they will always point directly to Polaris. They're called the pointer stars. Okay. The next page with contour lines, they never cross. If the lines are close together, that's going to tell you it's steep. If they're far apart, that's gentle. Remember that the contour lines always bend upstream when they cross a river, and they connect areas of equal elevation. The map scale is used to measure distance, and the contour interval is what the lines go up by. Highest possible elevation. If you remember, it's 1 less than what would have been the next line. So here they tell you there was a 100-meter line. They go up by 20. So the next line would have been 120. So the highest possible line spot on the map would have been 119. So again, I got that by taking 100, highest line on the map, adding 20, what would be the next line, and subtracting 1. A benchmark will tell you the actual measured elevation of a location. It's just a random spot that somebody went and measured the elevation at. Streams always flow downhill. You have to be able to figure out the contour interval on your own or read it off the map. So in this case, it's 20 feet. I use the map scale. So again, in case you forgot my recommendations for measuring, you just take a scrap sheet of paper, and yes, you'll be given one on the Regents. You mark off the 2 locations, X and Y, bring that to the scale, and you can see that these were 2 miles apart. They were a difference in 60 feet, and then we plug that into the equation, change divided by distance, and you get 30 feet per mile. Any questions yet? All right, on the back, just a few more gradient questions. Oh, this one's really important that you remember how you figure out how a river flows. First of all, it always flows downhill, so you could look at that. Or if you want to know which way it's going based on the contour lines, anytime a river crosses a line, it makes a little bend in the line. Again, those bends always point upstream, so where it came from. So if it came from this way and it's going this way, it means it's going north. You could have said northwest because here it is a little bit more northwest. I will caution you, always make sure you check the scale. They one time made it look like this and pointed north down, which I will be honest, screwed me up. And I would have gotten that question wrong. I would not have gotten 100 on the test because I didn't look at this compass. In this case, if the compass was going down, all that means is never eat soggy worms or waffles. And you just have to do the compass that way. So in that case, it would have been to the southeast. Just check the compasses. Anyway, the highest value for here, this is the highest labeled one, 400. So this line right here would be 420. That doesn't mean that's the very top of that hill, though. We know the hill does not go up to 440. They would have drawn that line. But we could say it is one less than that. So 439. The difference in elevation between A and B was 100. And they were 4 miles apart. So 100 divided by 4 is 25 feet per mile. Same deal here. We have a contour interval of 20. The highest line is 400. So the highest spot could be 419. X and Y are 2 kilometers apart, and they change 80 meters. So 80 divided by 2 is 40 meters per kilometer. Anybody have any issues with that? Any questions? Okay, then real quick, the next 3 questions. Number 1, I got to be 40 meters per kilometer. They were 80 difference, and they were 2 kilometers apart. Here they were 60 apart, 60 different, and 2 kilometers apart, again, giving me 30. And on the back, oh, that's the wrong question. You guys don't have that page. Geez, somebody should have spoke up. Let's try that again. The next one that you actually have, which is question 4, not question 1, they were 30 different, 3 kilometers apart, giving you 10 meters per kilometer. Sorry, guys. Number 5, they were 80 apart or 80 different. Why did I say kilometers? They were 80 meters, 2 kilometers. Oh, they were feet and miles, which gave you 40 feet per mile. And the last one was C. They were 150 meters per kilometer. Now, any questions now that I totally baffled you by adding a page to my answer sheet? Questions? Okay, so you guys have 7 minutes. You could use that to review chapter 3. I think it's not enough time to log in and do a Kahoot. We can, what, guys want to do a Rocks and Minerals Kahoot tomorrow? Or is there anything that you desperately want to review? If you could think of something you want to review and don't want to tell me right now, go ahead and message me on Teams. I'll make sure we get those reviews in. But we're going to keep going in this format where I'll give you the review. You can choose to do it if you want. I'll post it on Teams. And that'll help you get ready for the Regents week from Friday. So no official homework tonight. I do want you guys, like I said, if you want to turn in any missing assignments, get those into me by Tuesday. People who are turning in assignments, their grades are skyrocketing.